please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Hello and welcome to Halftime Report. It's 12 noon. We're halfway through the trading session and bears are completely in control of the markets this Monday morning. So the Nifty, after breaking below its 200-day moving average and touching its 2018 low of 10,140 thereabout, right now as we speak, there is some stability, a little bit of a bounce back that is trying to come through in the frontline space as well as the mid-cap space. But the mid-cap index continues to be extremely weak, down close to about 1.3%. Hi.
Well, Rima, thanks so much, for giving us a complete brief of what's going on in the markets. But I'll tell you what, Team HTR was very happy to have you back just last week. And today, on behalf of Team HTR, here's wishing you, Rima, a very, very happy birthday. God bless. May this year be one of the best for you. And have a great day once you're done with today's action.
Thank you. It's good to be 18, always.
Absolutely. All right, Rima, but... all the best for this year, and
it's already been such a special year.
And baby Neil's will be waiting for you once you get home. So
yes, and I likewise.
All right.
So thank you very much for all those wishes.
Okay, all right.
As we speak, there has been about just a 20-point bounce back in the Nifty. So now the Nifty is inching towards its 200-day moving average of 10,161 thereabout. The mid-caps have effected an 80-point bounce from the low point of the day. So after touching its 2018 low, things, at least the markets is saying, hey, we don't want to sell off some more. Let's run you through a couple of stocks which have moved higher. It appears to be Big Boy State Bank of India, Infosys, Asian Paints, Bajaj Finance. These are a couple of the stocks which are moving higher. But let's drill it down to individual stocks. This is our Movers and Shakers segment, and Sonal is here to kickstart that to tell more about TV18 and ENIL.
And what has really happened is TV Today has decided to sell 3 of its radio stations, that is in Delhi, Calcutta and Mumbai, to ENIL. Though the consideration is not known, but the stock TV Today is down 7%, mostly because the street was expecting some deal like this to happen. So if I talk about the financials, the radio business that gives a revenue of around 17 crores, that is 3.5% of the total revenues, has an EBIT loss of around 11 crores. But what really happens is that ENIL operates these channels through sales alliance with TV Today. So what would this mean for ENIL is, since Motilal Oswal, in one of the reports they said that they expect these 3 channels to do a revenue of around 70 crores in next 2 to 3 years, and the total market of these 3 radio stations is at around 700 crores. So they will be able to garner around 10 to 12% market share in these stations, and that is quite positive for ENIL, and these 2 stocks are in focus today.
Okay, just one correction. It was TV Today and not TV18 that I was referring to, which is looking to sell its radio business to ENIL, as Sonal just pointed out.
All right, then let's get back to some stocks. Mangalam joins us to tell us about all the order wins over this weekend. Mangalam.
Well, Nigel, as the culture is, as far as March is concerned, is the last working month of this fiscal. So a lot of these order inflows, they do pick up, and that was no different that we saw as far as news concerned this weekend came by. So we had Ashoka Buildcon, which won part of the project in Gujarat by the NHAI. They were declared the lowest bidder for that. We also had PNC Infra. They won a similar amount in Gujarat as well. And then finally, we had Sadbhav Engineering. They also bagged an order coming in for one of these highway projects. But PNC Infra as well as Ashoka Buildcon are the ones which are holding up in a weak market in the green.
Okay, thank you for that. On the losing end are oil marketing companies led by BPCL and IOC, and Naveen is here to tell us on that. Naveen?
So early morning we got reports, Rima, which suggested that IOC and BPCL will be looking to buy around 26% stakes in GAIL, and the deal value is pegged at around 20,000 crore, which is exactly around the current market price of GAIL. But what is important to note here is that the report quotes some sources which, according to them, this won't be an actual merger of sorts, but it's just the transfer of ownership. So actual merger of sort, if there is not much of a certainty on that fact, and that is the reason why you see the likes of IOC as well as BPCL, they are sulking in trade, because in case there is a merger, actual merger happening, there will be some bit of an integration. But in case if there is only transfer of assets, then there won't be integration benefits that will be seen to these oil marketing companies, and that is one reason why these stocks are down in trade today.
All right. Thanks so much, Naveen, for joining us. Maybe one final time on Movers and Shakers and giving us a quick update on that. All the best going ahead. as well. But we have to focus on another stock, NMDC. As we told you earlier, well, iron ore prices and steel prices, they've taken a bit of a knock as the Chinese prices are suggesting. So NMDC now is down close to around 6.5%. But why is it down so much? If you take a look at the futures as well as the spot market, definitely the street was factoring in some dividend that was likely to come in. So you see the cash market, that is down nearly around 6.5%, but in the futures, it's down around 3.5%. Why was that? You know, the street was factoring in some kind of dividend that could come in. Now, they had a board meeting on March 17th, and in that, they're saying that, in fact, we're not going to be giving any interim dividend, and the meeting lasted all of 3 hours. Now, I spoke to some analysts on the street. They're a little worried. They're saying, how come NMDC is not going to be declaring dividend? Because the first 9 months of this year were better than last year. So there is a bit of a doubt factor there. Is there something that's coming? Or maybe, in fact, the street is thinking too much. So that's the reason why the stock is down 6.5%. Iron ore price is weak, and suddenly no dividend coming in from NMDC. Street is very nervous on the back of that. But moving on then, in a positive development for Shilpa Medicare, the US FDA has given all clearance to the company's formulation manufacturing facility at Telangana. We spoke to the management earlier today, so let's hear out what they had to tell us.
Totally, we have done 32 filings from this particular plant, including our customer filing. There were only 3 483s were there, and we submitted all our response. Soon, probably, we'll get that also clearance. Yeah, it was doing good. We are getting more and more market share in that particular molecule.
In fact, pharmaceutical is the place to hide today in this nervous market in the mid-cap end. Even Divi's Laboratory is attempting a rebound. Let's get that up for you on your screen. Some intraday gains coming through on that. Moving on, some independent rating agencies have put PNB's rating under watch with a negative outlook. Sanjay Gupta, the MD of PNB Housing Finance, says 27 to 30% of the borrowings will be repriced in FY19. Listen in.
We are more concerned is at a macro level is on the liquidity position, and the way the GSEC curves are moving up, that will be universally be adversely impacting the entire sector, because most of the housing finance companies have 50 to 55% of their total borrowings from the capital markets. So that's more of a concern rather than our own, I would say, treasury. Yes, about 27-30% of the book is going to be repriced.
Okay, then let's do a quick recap of all the top buzzing stocks we just covered. We have TV today, ENIL, PNC Infra, Ashoka Buildcon, BPCL, IOC, Shilpa Medicare, PNB Housing Finance, as well as NMDC. Okay, let's move on then. And the markets are very volatile today. We are under some pressure. We have completed a 1,000-point correction from the peak that we saw earlier this year. So good time to get an insight into dealing room chatter. Nimesh Har joins us with Trader Talk. Hi, Nimesh.
Hi, Nigel. So, I think these are first signs of some bit of nervousness or some bit of panic now setting in the mid cap and small cap. So that's the space which is which is clearly getting punished. Huge action or huge activity, so to speak, in the HNI desk, is what I'm getting to here. So clearly there is this nervousness now in the mid cap and small cap, which has been playing out for the last few days. In terms of institutional activity, well, the volumes have picked up. But it's essentially in the large cap names. Again, there are mixed flows out there. So metals and some bit of PSU banks are getting punished. But in the mid cap and small cap, again, so a lot of hope was building up, and that seems to be now squaring off in the mid cap and small cap. So clearly, stocks where there is a risk of earnings or the hope is not playing out in terms of corporate action, those stocks are getting sold into. So the 200 DMA is going to be very, very critical to watch out for. You've been highlighting for the last few days now that the 200 DMA is a level to watch out. If that gets taken out, probably we'll see a sharp sell-off in not in the mid cap, not in the large caps like banks and Bank Nifty, but in the mid cap and small cap as well. So now people have started talking about possible sub 10,000 levels or even 9,800 levels in the Nifty in the near term. So that's a kind of sentiment which is there now in the dealing desk. So largely it's the mid cap and small cap which is getting punished, and essentially from the HNIs and the smart investors, it looks like now this panic can set into the other sectors as well. But clearly the 200 DMA is something to watch out, and the biggest risk for the market in the near term is the political uncertainty. Given that there is so much of noise with regards to political uncertainty and the PSU bank crisis, that is not helping the sentiment as well. So net-net, some sense of panic setting into the mid-cap and small-cap, and within the large names, it's the metals and the PSU bank stocks which is seeing some bit of selling pressure from the larger institutions.
Hi Nimesh, your point is well taken because the Nifty is facing rejection at that 200-day move average. We went to levels of 10,160 just about 5 minutes ago, and from that level we once again lost about 15 points in the Nifty. Take a look at Bharti Airtel. That's been a big drag today. Bharti Airtel has lost close to about 1% losing ground in, as we speak, Adani Ports, Ambuja Cement, Sun Pharma, and the weakness in Asia is also not helping. So Nikkei is quite nervous ahead of the FOMC policy, which is scheduled later this week, where the expectation is the Fed is going to raise rates and they will give a roadmap for future rate hikes as well. So there is a bit of element of global nervousness as well ahead of the FOMC meet.
All right. Defense firm Hindustan Aeronautics has hit the IPO street. Yash Jain caught up with the MD of the company, the CMD of the company, in fact, and began by asking him the details of this issue. Let's hear him out.
Insofar as IPO is concerned, it is 10% of the equity shares. We do expect around 4,000 crores will be mopped up. And insofar as HL is concerned, it is basically the amount, since it's a government company, what are the proceeds, whatever the amount we get it from that, will go to the government only.
Okay. Sir, as far as your production map is concerned, how many production divisions do you have currently? How many research divisions do you have at the moment? And also, what's the greenfield and the brownfield expansion which you have planned on both these fronts in the next 3 to 5 years?
We have 20 production units and 11 R&D centers. Most of them are co-located.
Right.
Insofar as expansion is concerned, greenfield and brownfield is it. We are, first is Tumkuru, you must have heard, near Bangalore. It is coming up basically for LUH, light duty helicopter, which is going to replace the light helicopters like Cheetah and Chetak.
Right.
And insofar as expansion of capacity, brownfield, as you said, LCA is a real, it's in a project which is going to give fresh lease of life to HL, or going to strengthen HL's what you call business. And we have today, we are in a position to produce around 8 aircrafts, which is going to be made into 16. So that capacity is going to get augmented.
Okay. So you said there is, of course, significant expansion, both greenfield and brownfield. Help me understand what is the kind of investment which you have earmarked as a company for that significant investment going forward?
We are capex side, if you are asking. We presently, on a yearly basis, we will be spending around 1,300 crores. Cumulatively, if you take for next 5 years, we will be spending around 5,000 crores.
What is the current product mix which you have between defense and civil? And what will be the ideal product mix which you would look to achieve in the coming future?
Product mix is 90% comes from defense only, and 10% comes from other side. Okay. Insofar as we are concerned, if you see one decisive change or defining change insofar HL is concerned is, though major portion will continue to come from defense, because defense requires a long-term sort of a commitment. Right. But insofar as HL is concerned, in addition to defense, we are putting our presence very strongly in the areas of civil side also.
Sir, as far as your order book is concerned, where does that stand currently, and what kind of margin do you expect to derive from the current order book which you have in hand?
Insofar as HL order book is concerned, we have a firm order book of 68,000 crores. Okay. Expansion of that order book, you say around 60,000 crores are expected, or almost in the, we'll say, we can see that. 60,000 crores will essentially come from 83 LCA and 15 LCH.
Okay, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, the IPO will be closing tomorrow. So today is day 2, and so far as of noon, the subscription is close to about 26%. One constraint, of course, is that it's all the orders come in from the government. So if there is any delay or if there is any cut in the defense budget, that will hurt the prospects of the company. But moving on, at the India Rising Summit, Lata Venkatesh caught up with Nobel Prize winning economist Paul Krugman, who said that China needs to make a big transition and adjust to the times. He added that a successful Indian future must include a lot more of manufacturing. Listen in.
We need a China that is a reliable partner. And one-man rule is not how you get reliable partners. You never know what may enter that man's mind. And so this is a bad thing. China needs to make a big transition too. China cannot continue to do its economy the way it did. It was there are things you can do when you have a huge reserve of underemployed peasants that you can put to work and you can grow at 9 or 10% a year. You can't keep on doing that. You need to adjust. You need to become more mature. In some ways, the success of Indian service exports worked against manufacturers. It has kept the rupee stronger than it would otherwise have been. And it means that India has not been as cheap a place to produce as you might have expected. But on the other hand, India has this enormous wave of people coming along, so it needs to employ them. And India still has reasonably low wages. Productivity is low, but not as low as some other places. I think infrastructure used to be a big issue, transport infrastructure. It's gotten better. A successful Indian future would include a lot more manufacturing being part of this global manufacturing system.
The low point of the day for the benchmark indices, at least the large caps. Metals are selling off quite rapidly. So Hindalco, Vedanta, Tata Steel, all reeling under pressure, and weakness seen in the telecom names, Bharti as well as Idea. They were the best performing sector last week, but today the gains there are getting undone. On the mid-cap end of trade, just keep your eye on Marico. Marico is rebounding from the lows of the day and in pretty good volumes as well. So the stock is surging, gaining close to about 1%. But over the weekend, a host of important political, economic, sports and entertainment leaders gathered at Network 18's India Rising Summit. Ruchi Sharma of Morgan Stanley Investment Management, who spoke to Shireen Bhan, said the importance of politics on the Indian economy and that the market is exaggerated. He added that India needs to focus on low-end manufacturing. Listen in.
Last year, 7,000 millionaires left this country, the largest number in recent times. The year before that, it was 4,000. So the number is going up of the number of millionaires leaving this country. Foreign investment is important, but it's really domestic sort of participation, domestic investors who sort of make a nation going forward. So I think that, to me, this has to be really sort of looked into, that why are so many millionaires leaving this country? And if you're happy about it because you think this is part of the anti-corruption drive, fair enough. But when the number is the highest in the world, at least as a share of total millionaires leaving the country, that should be a cause for concern. The importance of politics in the Indian context is way exaggerated. So I love following politics. I travel every time there's a major election in India. I spend a week traveling with a band of people to figure out what really is happening in that election. It's fascinating. But one thing I've learned over the years is that do not draw any inference from the election results on what's going to happen to the economy or to the markets. And the markets is very interesting. That we think of markets as this sort of very efficient beast. The markets have always been, the Indian market has always been wrong, at least initially, about the politics.